Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to our next guest that I'm going to share with because he's part of our sponsor, MindLeap, and he and I have been working together a little bit with some of his material in integration. And MindLeap is an organization that we had spoke with on, it was Friday, it seems like so long ago, but yet so near. And MindLeap is an app that's been created so that we can take care of integration. It's really important within any psychedelic experience that we can integrate and learn from our experience so that it can help transform our lives. And MindLeap has done a great job putting together an app with experts in the field of integration. And I think we have a short video that kind of takes us for a walkthrough with the app. And then I'm going to bring in a friend of mine, Roan Kaufman, who's one of the practitioners on that app. So if we can roll the clip, guys, that would be great. Great, and that's MindLeap. Roan, welcome. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to see you too, Mark. God, yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah, it's just a pleasure to have. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I've been lurking a little bit, and it's been amazing to see what you guys created here. I'm really honored to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful to have you part of our conference this year, and I know you and I have had a number of discussions, and I met Roan actually through our Facebook group, Spirit Plant Medicine, where he was sharing his Psychedelic Integration Handbook. And it came from a conversation because we like to, share things that we believe are reputable and practical for our community. And if there's one thing that I learned was, Roan, your book was one of the most comprehensive things I've seen in integration, and integration has been one of the biggest topics that we find is, in many cases missing in people's psychedelic experience. And when I found out you were part of MindLeap and everything else, I thought, what a great opportunity to bring you in and have a quick chat about your work, because like I say, it's, so complete, this workbook, and it's not just a book, it's a workbook. So maybe you can tell us a little bit what kind of inspired you to create that and your work in the psychedelic world.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been, working in psychedelic world, mostly with ayahuasca, for the past 15, 16 years, and I got inspired. Partly my journey has been to how do I listen to the plant? How do I really surrender to this process? And there's been, as you guys know, there's no real roadmap. And so, I ended up doing my doctoral dissertation on ayahuasca and social change. And, for years I would be working just the integration guy and kind of flying by the seat of my pants. But I started doing really a lot of different shamanic, having shamanic mentors and different types of initiations. And I tried to put that all into the integration work because to me, I started thinking that Western psychology and psychotherapy and mindfulness and all that stuff, which is really important stuff, but it's kind of like fitting like a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't really fit. And so I was trying to look at, and I spent about 3 years working on the workbook because I was trying to find a way to have this experience be customized, because all of our experiences with, plant medicines and psychedelics, as we've been hearing about all weekend, are so individual and unique. And I'm sort of thinking, like, how do you create an integration pathway that's unique and honors everybody's journey, because it's so different? One person may have an issue around sexuality, and another person grappling with trauma, and another person just understanding the imagery that's coming up during a psychedelic journey, and another person, having dreams, and the whole spectrum of things. And so I really wanted to find ways to empower each person to kind of take this journey for themselves. And that's why I made the workbook so comprehensive.
Great. Well, one of the things that, and I want to show if we can see something here, if we can get the camera in on it, this is a big book, 3 years. And it's, if I can show you, I'm just going to kind of open it up to a page, because it's not just a book of just reading, but you can see that, there's areas in there for doing the work. So, it's one thing to read a book, it's another thing to take notes and take actions in a book. And Roan, your book has outlined it completely and has made it a piece of work, like a journal along your psychedelic journey. And I couldn't believe how impressed I was with it when I first got it. So what would you say, if people are going to consider a psychedelic journey and integration, what would you say is, the most important thing for them to consider?
It's a tough question. I mean, you're talking about set and setting. So to me, the journey begins with the intention to go, with the idea that I'm going to work with psychedelic medicine, and why am I doing this? And to really start to think from a school of thought of what is the journey going to be, and what do I hope to gain from this experience, even if it is just inner exploration. And that's going to drive how I approach it. And I've really more recently been driving the idea of really being in relationship and harmony with the plant or the medicine. And then the next step is, how do I approach the actual ceremonial work? And then the last piece is, what am I taking away from this? So what's the actual homework? Like, I think of plant medicines in particular as giving me homework. They're saying, you had this thing and now go do this. It's almost like having this master teacher tell you what to do. And how do you outline and take those lessons to heart and really integrate them in your life? Because we go from, the journey of the mystic, which is to go to the abstract and go to the plant medicine, then we go back into the, quote, reality, and we make that journey over and over. But we do that for a reason of, and how do we take that and make it, quote, real? Because we want to just do that. Otherwise, we're, in my opinion, misusing the plants or not honoring the journey the way it's meant to be given from the plant.
Mm-hmm. And we see it often at times, especially in the field of this work, where if we don't treat the work seriously, it almost becomes like a hobby, a new way of kind of like partying or doing something. And I think it's really important to take this work seriously, and that's to like any personal growth, any personal development work that we do, even coming to this conference. It's one thing to go and take it in. It's another thing to integrate it and use it for transformation to create a better everyday life, not just for ourselves, but for those around us, right? So
Sure.
What can you say to that?
Well, I mean, I almost concentrate in my community more on the integration than the experience themselves, because people, one of my critiques is that people are just doing medicines over and over and over without taking the proper time to digest them. And the whole reason you're doing that is to change your life or to create a transformation in some way. The whole process takes where we are, it moves us to somewhere else. And then we need to really do that inner work. And so for me, I speak to that in a way that take the time, honor yourself and honor your journey to really, instead of rushing to the next ceremony, the next medicine, to really take the time to absorb that and make those changes, because then you're going to get the most out of it. And I think that's, if we go from the Indigenous worldview isn't, they're not using medicines every weekend, they're on an occasion, or you have an existential problem, or you have a divorce, or somebody dies, or you have an intention that's very strong, and then you do that, and then you go back in your life, and you kind of go through the circle. And that's where I think, medicine's so important, is you have this problem, you do the medicine, you integrate it, you have a new vision, and then maybe you go through the circle again and again, and I look at things very much that way.
Fantastic. So now when I found out you're part of Mind Leap, I was quite excited, and because they've put together this app with a number of different integration specialists. What would you say to people in terms of selecting who to work with for integration?
Well, I know in Mind Leap people have their specializations. I mean, my most experience is with ayahuasca. So, I mean, that's something that I really have spent 20 years working with. So I know that, but I think that people need to not only trust their intuition, but really look to, who's going to solve their problem the most, and to look at who's the most, not only education. I mean, ayahuasca told me I had to have a Western education, but to really find somebody who you really feel addresses what your needs are in the most heartfelt way, and that really speaks to your soul, And I just think that's the most, I trust people's heart more than anything,
Beautifully said. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit because, I noticed in your work you created something that is really unique that I've never seen before. And I happen to love oracle cards myself. And Roan has created a set of ayahuasca oracle cards. Not only are they beautiful, but they are profound in the way that they work. I don't know if you can get a close-up of some of these guys. You want me to go to this camera here? This camera here? Oh. We're learning how to be on television. Look at that. The first card I pulled was ayahuasca. How interesting is that? What can you tell us about that card, Roan?
I need to look it up off the top of my head here, but the reason I designed the card deck was that, I would go to ceremonies and people were pulling things like angel cards and stuff like that. And I really felt like, what if we really have a card deck that pulls really important lessons that are cross-cultural for all plant medicines that help us integrate our journey and help prepare our journey? And that's, in each of the cards, I did, did writing about each thing, and I grounded it in a plant medicine from around the world, be it Huicholis or the Shipibo tradition or Lakota tradition, kind of in that cross shamanic way, So, an ayahuasca card might be, I'm sorry, I need to look it up because it's been a while since I wrote it, but it's all good. It's really looking at how do we take that? What's the mystery of it? And what is, for example, the vine of the dead or whatever lesson that I think is significant to you. It says, if you pull the ayahuasca card, it's revealing itself to you today. It's good news. It's confirmation that the hard work you're doing is a sign, and that the lessons from healing of ayahuasca are paying off. So, all the lessons in here, I just pulled Heart of Love or Silence card, the Breath card, the Dialogue card, Community card, the Mountain card, Chakruna card, sensuality. And to me, all those things are aspects of the ayahuasca work. I hired one of my favorite artists to do these beautiful pictures, and people have really enjoyed those cards as well. I appreciate you bringing that up, Mark.
Yeah, well, I certainly do enjoy the cards. We've had some integration gatherings at our place where they've been really powerful and very well received. So thank you very much for that. So before we wrap up, because we've got to get going to our next speaker, I just wanted to let people know you've got another book. I don't even know how to pronounce that one. It's Ayagogi?
Ayagogi. It doesn't. It's fine. I just tried to make it about ayahuasca as a learning model, and the same thing I feel like a lot of the ayahuasca work that I talk about has crossover with all plant medicines. That this is more the social political aspect, which we could talk about forever, but it's when I did some of my research showing that when people work with ayahuasca 100+ times, it really changes their worldview, and it changes it socially, politically, from a Western mindset to more of an Indigenous mindset, and their values change. And these are things that I know we're talking about all weekend here, but the transformational power of plant medicine. So, and that's kind of what all we do about in our Ayavolve Institute, and all of our work is grounded in that kind of Indigenous mindset, and with a focus on the microcosm changing in the macro and changing the world in that way, and changing it so we can be better stewards of Mother Earth. So.
Well, Roan, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're interested in Roan's work, you can visit ayavolve.com. and you can get his books and cards and things there. And because this thing's such a beast for shipping, you can, if you're in Canada, you can order the book from consciouspsychedelics.com, and we ship it here in Canada. It just saves a little postage on that. But it's just a way to get the book into people's hands, because we think it's very important work. So Roan, I thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on our program, and I look forward to doing some more work with you in the future.
Thank you, Roan.
Thank you.